Okay, so they've launched digital IDs in Britain. You have to go to a government website and log in and you can get your digital ID. It's only open at present to the 2 million or so veterans, Army and Navy and services veterans in the country. So this is the time for me to give a talk about why you should not take this digital ID and what's wrong with taking it. And incidentally, Sir Keir Starmer has said, he said, these are his words, let me spell this out for you. If you do not have a digital ID, you will not be able to work in this country. Now, in my understanding, the right to work is a basic human right. It is not dependent on having some kind of digital ID or any other ID. And so Sir Keir Starmer's speech is a destruction of one of the basic human rights that every person should have. I don't see how it can be legal. But anyway, let me explain why, right now to the veterans and to everybody else, why you should not take a digital ID at all. Now, the Indians have had them in India, the Aadhaar system or something, and since 2016. And the Chinese have had them since 2023. Various other countries have them. The reason you shouldn't have them is this. They will, as Starmer has pointed out, be used to take away the right of your brother. He's made a pledge, not that that means anything in his case, but in this case I think it does. To take away the right of your brother to earn a living and feed his family. If you sign up to this system, you become a part of the abuse that the system will mete out to those who refuse the mark, not dissimilar to those who refuse the vaccination. Now imagine that you're living in Nazi Germany in 1939 and Hitler has already established the concentration camps, and he's put in them not only the Jews and the Jehovah's Witnesses and the homosexuals and the homeless and the Romani and his political opponents and the disabled. He's also put in regular Germans who were deemed to be insufficiently enthusiastic about the Führer, because they always get the control mechanisms in place first, then the abuse comes. So if you were in 1939 or 40 or 41 Germany, would you pay tax to Hitler? Would you fund his abuse of people in concentration camps, and would you fund his murdering rampage throughout Europe and Russia? Would you do that? Because we're in an analogous situation now. If you join the digital ID, if you choose yourself to register on a government website for a government who has stated, let me spell this out, you will not be able to work in the UK if you do not have a digital ID. So then you become a collaborator in an illegal scheme, or certainly a immoral scheme. I don't know what the law is these days, who knows, but it's obviously it's a deprivation scheme. I mean, Bill Gates explained it very well. You will be excluded from the financial system. So if you sign up for it, you are signing up to exclude your brother, for a fact in this country, from doing any work. You will be responsible for his inability to do work. I mean, not totally only you'll be part of a firing squad of everybody who signed up. They sign up because they're worried that they won't be able to do any work, but there are some who have the moral strength to realise this is not something they're going to lend their name to. They won't sign up, and you will be denying them work. That's why it's a really bad idea. But there's much more to it than that, because let me explain how these things work in metaphorical terms. First of all, they tie you to the bed. That's the digital ID. Then they take your clothes off. That's the CBDC, when they end up owning your money. And I'll leave it to your imagination to work out what happens next. Digital ID is the tie-in. CBDC is you lose control of everything. Step 3. So, the way to... Now, that's all physical. Everything I've said there is physical. Indeed, you might deduce from this that you should not be paying taxes to a government who is denying people the basic right to work, just as you shouldn't pay taxes in 1939 to Hitler's government, who denied people the freedom of expression and forced them under pain of torture and death in a concentration camp to fight a war and go and subjugate and kill their brother. And in order, before that can be done, the control mechanisms must be set up, and these are the control mechanisms they've started to be set up. They were set up on Friday the 16th of October is when you could first register. Now so that's the physical side of it. All right, you end up being a collaborator in what will be very soon a concentration camp, a digital exclusion camp, where first of all you won't be able to get a drink in the pub. Then you won't be able to go to a football match. Then you won't be able to go abroad. Then you won't be able to go to court. Then you won't be able to have any health care. And then you won't be able to have a job. And then you won't be able to eat. And they are desperate to get this control over you for nefarious purposes. But let me now go spiritual. So that's true. That was just for everybody. If you've got a moral conscience, independent on whether you believe in God or not. But if you believe in God, it's an order of magnitude more serious, this. Because this is the mark of the beast. It doesn't actually become, I think, I'm not quite sure at what point it becomes the mark of the beast, because in Revelation 3 it's a test upon the entire inhabited earth, and it hasn't yet quite reached that proportion. But nonetheless, it's still a test now. Anybody who signs up for it today is condoning the exclusion of his brother from work in this country by a immoral and, I believe, anti-human right and therefore illegal government action. But it's far worse than that, because the simple determinant on whether or not you get into the kingdom of God is which side you choose to be on. If you choose to be on the side of protect my money at all costs, whatever the immorality is to my brother, you have chosen mammon over God, and you have bought a ticket to hell. What a digital ID is a pass to go and see Rowan Atkinson's Toby. It's very simple. The reality of the Toby is all those with digital IDs go over there, and all those without them, oh, there aren't any without them. That's hell. It's a simple test from God, described in Matthew 25 in terms of sheep and goats. Sheep are those with faith, goats are those with love. And because it doesn't say that the sheep go into everlasting life and the goats go into everlasting damnation. It doesn't say that. It says he sorts between the sheep and the goats, and the righteous ones go into everlasting life, and the unrighteous ones go into everlasting damnation. It's not actually everlasting, both of them are indefinitely lasting, not everlasting. Because no punishment from God is permanent, because his love is greater than his justice. So it's very straightforward, but you can rescind the mark, many will. And if you have the mark, which is the digital ID, and the next thing will be that if you have the mark and your neighbour or your brother or your family member or your friend or your church going brother refuses the mark and is hungry, and you feed them, you will be regarded just as the mark refusers are. You will lose your digital ID if you feed people without it. Exactly the same way that the Israeli government falsely accused Greta Thunberg of being a terrorist because they said that she was helping terrorists by feeding starving Gazans, or attempting to. Likewise, if you attempt to feed mark refusers, you will be regarded just as they are, and they will be called terrorists. They aren't, but I mean, some of them might be, but some of the people with a mark might be. Nonetheless, they will slander them as being terrorists, and if you help them in any way, which will, of course, the whole system is designed to negate love. Love conquers that system. If you have love of your brother, you won't join it. If you have insufficient love to stop yourself joining it, but sufficient love to help your brother, you will also be saved. Because what will actually happen is the angels will give you the strength to leave it. So the system is the enemy of love. Control is the enemy of love. There's two choices. Love, where you give your brother that you trust him, you put faith in him. Control, where you trust nothing, and you want to control every aspect of your brother's life, and that's what digital IDs and CBDCs are all about. So that's what I would ask you to consider. From a spiritual standpoint, you deny yourself salvation because you demonstrate to God that you don't love your brother, and that's terminal as regards salvation. From a moral standpoint, you become, this is your choice. We're back in 1939. This is your choice now. Do you support the Führer or do you not? And the Führer will be worldwide. This is the Fourth Reich. And they're going to want total control of your whole life, and they will put you in a digital concentration camp if you don't go along with it. And if you try and feed somebody, if you do go along with it, and you try and feed somebody or help them in any way who has not got the mark, if you try and take services that are only allowed to be given to the chosen people, the people with the mark, if you take some of those services and give them to people without a mark, you will be regarded as a traitor, and they'll basically take your mark away from you eventually. So this is the battle. It's a very straightforward binary battle. You will be your own judge, and you will be your own executioner in this matter from a spiritual standpoint, from a kingdom of God citizenship standpoint. It's not just, oh great, I can be in heaven on a cloud. There's going to be a kingdom of God on this earth when this government ends, which is, not when Keir Starmer's government ends, when all satanic government ends in 2033, 2,000 years after Jesus died. When that happens, either you continue here or you go to God's prison, and you get excluded by him. So you can either be excluded actually by Satan through by refusing the mark, in which case you're accepted by God, or you can be accepted by Satan, in which case you're rejected by God, until such time as you yourself realise that you don't want to be collaborating with people who, I mean, you'll see it, the treatment of people without the mark will get worse and worse and worse, and you'll see it, and at some point, hopefully, everybody watching this video will determine that I cannot associate myself with that type of treatment of my brother. I just can't do it. I've got to rescind this mark. But I'm warning you now that those are the stakes, and find a way to duck and dive as much as you can, to become independent from government as much as you can, find farm shops and stuff, because you won't be able to get into Sainsbury's or Tesco's. All the big supermarkets will have digital ID, and if you don't have it, and Amazon, the whole thing, small local suppliers and stuff, some way of carrying on without it, because the day has arrived, they're on it, and the mouth of the beast, the final beast that does all these digital IDs, is the lion's mouth, and that's Britain. And so it's that mouth has spoken, and it said you won't have a job unless you have a digital ID. Whereas the truth is, you won't have a future in the kingdom of God unless you reject the digital ID. Thank you.